All right, Tobe, you're actually live.
I'm live already. Holy cow, I'm live, and I even got. Hey, bud, have I thanked you lately for everything you do to do this show? Cause all I gotta do
thank me every day, Tobe.
Okay, well, all I gotta do is show up and have fun.
Yeah.
And so it works really nice for me. So I appreciate you lining up all these gentlemen and ladies that we get to talk to. But anyways, before we start, I like to read to the sponsors like every week. We're gonna try something different here. I made a mark in my notes. I'm going to read start in the middle this time.
All right.
So try not to miss anybody. So we're going to start out with Turn 2 Lodge this week. Just like it says, there's a place you can stay right outside of Turn 2 at Knoxville. Walk to the races once they start if you want to. Kaiser Aluminum Wheels. All your racing wheels needs you could possibly need. Brakes, I think they sell now. They got everything you possibly. I think there's even a clearance sale going on, or there was.
There was.
Fulkins Brothers Trucking. Simply everything they do for racing around the area and everything they do for me and you and me especially because Steve takes me places. Heartland Hardware and Appliance. Brandon, South Dakota. George, Iowa, and Hayward, Iowa. I believe if I remember right, they even sell mattresses at the Brandon store, don't they?
Absolutely.
Always want to mention Hero Haven for everything they do for the vets. I see they were looking for a few more to leave like Thursday to go side by side riding out in the hills.
Yep.
Hopefully they find enough guys for that. I hate to leave an empty spot. Always like to mention Snow and Shane with Bench Racing, Lumber Lounge and Garage. They got a great show. Give them a listen. Houston Speedway, another one of our sponsors. Local track right up the road. Great little 3/8 mile track. S2F or start to finish.
Yep. Looks like they have 4 races July 12th. Port City, Valley, something Valley. It's small, people. I can't read that.
Need my glasses.
Salina Speedway and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Motor Speedway. And then on July 13th, they're at Knox Raceway.
All right. On My Race Pass, pretty much anything you want to know about the races going on. Little bios on most of the drivers. All sorts of neat stuff. Audio, in case you're going down the road, you can listen to the announcer. Morning Sun Marketplace. Rick and Sue Fritz out in central Pennsylvania. What is it? Thomasville?
Yep.
I think. Look at me, I got it right, bud. Mount Tabor Cabinetry with Chris Fissel. He's out in central Pennsylvania too. If you got a remodel job or a new house you're building, you want some cabinets, give the man a call. And Rapid Graphics out of Rock Rapids. Get your cars lettered up, signs made, whatever. He's got all kinds of stuff. Done a lot of things for us hanging up here in the garage. So I think I got him, but I don't skip anybody.
All right, here we go then.
You now.
Hey, it's Hoagie's Garage, and we are so lucky to be in the presence of a new Hall of Famer at Houston's, Tobe. Doug DeWall, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. You super excited about being introduced into the Hall of Fame?
Most people know me super excited, kind of left years ago.
I knew that's what your answer was going to be, but you do have to be honored that you are going to be recognized.
Yes, I am. It's a great honor. Seems more real now than it did before. I was just something on a piece of paper before.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And well, that's this Sunday, right?
That's this Sunday.
Yep. I was reading the bio on you, so it was pretty good. You're also in the Jackson Hall of Fame, correct?
That's correct.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
that's 2 better than you and me are ever going to be, bud.
oh, you got that right. Doug, tell us a little bit about yourself. How old are you, and what's your full-time job and stuff like that?
Well, right now I don't really have a job.
Well, that ain't all bad as long as you didn't get fired or something. So.
Well, I guess I'm working on race cars. How's that? I had the pleasure of tearing my left shoulder completely haywire this last spring. My rotor cuff, the labrum, the bicep, and the tricep. And they wanted to operate, and I said, I don't think that's going to happen. Let's do therapy. So I can lift about 20 pounds right now, pretty without screaming. So,
Yeah, that sucks. 'Cause what you rattled off sounds like you wrecked everything there was to wreck in the shoulder.
yes, I did.
Damn. Well, if you're gonna do it right, right?
That's right. So, but anyway, and Gary's of retirement age, so I just shut down our construction. We were doing small cities grants type stuff, federal loans and of that nature, insulate attics, but lately, the last few years, it's mostly doors and windows.
Oh, okay.
Some siding. So.
Okay.
Plus, I built some motors on the side to help finance my racing, and then now this year I've partnered up with GP Promotions, Sean Goodnow, Riley, and Sarah.
Oh, yep. That's got to be about the youngest driver you guys have had in that car in a few years, ain't it?
Yeah, since Gary was that age.
And
That's a long
couple
time
of years ago.
So,
How long have you guys had a car out? I mean, I can remember it back in the 80s already when we first started going.
well, it's a crazy deal. The first time I put money in a car was in 1978. But Marv's been racing since '51. So,
Really?
yep. So it's we've been going a long time.
Well, I know, you know, if you're in the upper Midwest here, whatever you want to call our area, the DeWall name has been known forever, involved in racing. As like I said, my whole lifetime, basically, that I can remember racing, you guys have been there.
I was raised in Watertown, South Dakota, and I was kind of bummed that we were going to go back and race last week at the casino, but then it rained out.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
that's kind of been the common denominator throughout the whole country this year. It seems like it rains on race night.
and it seems more often than it should.
Yeah. Seems because, well, it's when you want to go outside and do something. When you're at work and you want a day off, you don't want to be outside, then it won't rain.
That's right. So,
But
Yeah.
so,
I'm trying to look something up that.
how about if I give a correction that Jason failed on?
oh well, look, anytime we can correct Jason, that's a win for everybody, right?
I was told you asked him the colors of the cars, and he forgot a yellow car, and he got a lot of email.
Oh.
And Jake Peters drove that yellow car, and we were very successful. We won the Jackson Nationals in 2009. And in Jason's defense, he was living in New York at the time.
Well,
No defense
no,
to Jason.
not for Jason. Yeah, they've just about always been blue and white, though, haven't they?
Not first blue and white car was 1981.
Okay.
Up until then, like when we were in Watertown and they had the coops and stuff, and as coaches, they were white with red flames on them.
Okay.
And then in '64, we kind of switched to the sign painter got too far away. We were in Jackson and he was in Watertown, South Dakota, so Marv and I did kind of a scallop design, and we used some high-tech pieces. One was a quart paint can, and the other was a piece of traced around the tape that we had to make all that stuff, and then just put a couple little arrows and stuff behind it. It looked good when we were done, but it sure sounds funny.
Well,
Hey, whatever it takes, right?
My dad tells the story. They had a drag car that him and Gary Deeren put together one time, and they painted it with some red barn paint and a rag. That's what they painted the car with. So it didn't have to look good to go fast.
Yeah.
You know.
As one guy told me, half the guys that go to the races can't see because there's dirt in the eyes, and the other half are too far away.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like I say with my old pickup, it's a real nice 20-footer. Because it's got rock chips and door dings and stuff in it, but boy, when it rides by on the highway, it looks pretty nice yet because you can't see it.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So, I want to insert something along those same lines. This will be my opportunity to catch up on an apology.
Okay.
When I had that yellow car, I got sick in the spring of 2010, and finally, the week after the 4th of July, I told Jake I couldn't go anymore. Well, I was the only one to do it. To get home from Houston's that week, I stopped, I think it was 9 times to sleep. And the last time was at Jackson Rest Area, which is 5 miles, and I fell asleep up by the racetrack going across the railroad tracks, or I wouldn't have woke up. So I decided something was wrong, and I was starting to make mistakes on my motors and stuff. So I just shut her down to try and get my health right.
Yep.
So I never did. I was so worried about taking care of me, and then eventually, my friend Jimmy Conda said, well, if I do the work on the cars and you sit in the chair, can we have Travis Whitney drive? And that was like September-ish. I said, yeah, I don't care. Because I was non-functional, basically. But we got it all straightened out. It took a year and a half. But I owe, was S&S Masonry that Jake brought for a sponsor, and the Stinga Farms, and of course Steve and Fulkin and his group. Yep. They all sponsored that car, and I didn't really talk to them when that all went down, because I was struggling bad, real bad.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like if you fell, if you had to take that many naps, I mean, it's a long drive to Jackson from Houston, but what did you find out eventually was wrong? Or don't you want to share that?
Well, sure, I can tell you. The simple explanation is I had like 8 or 9 small things going wrong, and the doctor said, basically, you're poisoning yourself from the inside out.
That's never good.
Kidney issue, stomach issue, intestinal issues, and just there's all little things like that. My sinuses were inflamed and they were infected, and just all those things piled up, and my body couldn't overcome it. So
yeah.
So we got her all straightened out the best they could anyway.
Yeah. Almost, I don't know, what's the word for that? Going like septic or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that I don't know what the proper words are, but I was very thankful because I had a little bout of it before, and doctors, I'd spending a lot of money because I had a $10,000 insurance policy deductible, and after about $25,000 or $30,000 I spent, I kind of give up. Well, then that time I finally got into the VA system, and they had a young gal there that listened to me, and then she said, well, you come back tomorrow, I'll probably be here, hour and a half. I was there 7 hours.
Oh, damn.
Oh my gosh.
Well, when you got 8 things wrong or whatever you said, that.
And she lined me up with all the specialists. I didn't know they even had so many specialists.
They got a specialist for everything nowadays.
Yeah.
I think they got a specialist if you got a hangnail. I think you can get a specialist for it. But
I felt bad for those sponsors because I never contacted them because, well, like that night that I finally decided I should quit, I had already slept 22 hours before I went to Houston.
Oh,
and
damn.
I couldn't make it home, so I thought something ain't right.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta get smacked upside the head with a 2x4 before you realize things.
I'm surprised I was smart enough to quit before I hurt somebody.
Yeah. So, well, you mentioned the VA, so I'm going to say thank you for your service, because I'm assuming you were in the military then.
Yes, I was. So.
I got a little bit on that. You were like stationed in Germany or something, and
Yeah.
You have a good friend Marv or something?
No, his nickname, I had a couple different friends there, and the black man that was my roommate, and hell of a basketball player. We played on 3 different basketball teams, but anyway, his name was Mason Hammond, and we got along good, and I called him Hambone, and he called me Whitey, so we got along just fine. And then when Christmas time come, I put out little red and white Christmas boots, and I put a black tape around top of his. And he laughed. We just enjoyed each other's company. And then the other guy I had for a friend, his first name was Dave, and he was a short, we'll call him short and round. His nickname was Stump, and it was apt. Took him 3 years to get into the Army. He'd hang upside down, he'd stretch by his hands, and he was to get to be 5 foot. He finally made 4'11" and a half, and that one guy said, if you want in that bad, I'm gonna write down 5 foot quarter inch.
I gave him an extra half inch.
But you,
But yeah, and the other part of that story is I was about 600 yards from the ship to go to Vietnam when President Nixon froze everybody's orders. So
Oh, really?
Bag in my hand and ready to go.
oh my goodness.
Come home for 2 weeks and then they sent me to Germany. So
Okay.
Now, did you win some tournament when you were there and you were the captain?
oh yeah, we won the basketball tournament, won the softball tournament. I was basketball coach / manager of one of the basketball teams. I was on 3 different teams. But that one we won the divisional crown, and then when we got for the whole German area, you know, for all the American soldiers in Germany, we got second. We got beaten that one.
Oh, okay.
That's cool. That's
'Cause,
cool.
yeah, for what you want to believe when Jason says anything. He says you were quite a basketball player. You're pretty serious about it. And it says that you and Gary used to beat the shit out of him playing as a kid. And he threw elbows like a something, but I'm not going to say that word on our show. And you tell him I said it, but...
Like a whirling dervish, maybe.
Well, that wasn't the word he used either, but...
Oh, but you,
Yeah, I was pretty good with the elbow.
yeah, that's pretty
I had
good.
My one high school coach was a little All-American, and he was upset because we weren't blocking out enough, and he kept showing us how to spread your arms and your elbows and block out. And the thing is he jumped and I blocked out, and I folded him like a big tent in a 100-mile-an-hour wind.
No wonder why those shoulders gave out after a while.
Wore him out. Hit him in that area.
It all
before you
comes
get hit
back
him.
to basketball.
Yeah. We got old softball injuries, bud.
Yeah, I know.
Doug's got old basketball injuries.
You know, the softball, you know, this sounds crazy. That actually helped my road cup on the right hand side. I couldn't get my iron in my shoulder.
Now, when you got inducted into the Hall of Fame in Jackson in 2013, Travis Whitney was driving, and did he pass Hogg for the win or something?
So, we started beside each other in the front row. We led the whole thing, and there was a couple different yellows, and I thought, well, I'm in trouble now. And we just would drive away. And then we went on a fuel, and that last lap, we tried a couple times, and I got close. And if anybody's listening, stop this picture. There was a picture that I seen it once, and I was going to buy one. I don't know who took it. That's a checkered flag. It ran out of fuel, and then when it got fuel back up, it picked the front wheels up about a foot and a half. But we made weight and everything, and I was in 2000. He said, what the heck kind of motor is in that thing? He said, I could never touch it. So we had a good discussion about motors. And I said, well, it's not conventional. What do you mean it's not conventional? I said, well, it's a little bit of a Johnny Cash motor. I've been saved one piece at a time.
Yeah.
That particular motor, my friend Jimmy, if we had new stuff, he liked to use it. I bought a set of cylinder heads and hid them in my closet in the house for a year and a half before I had all the rest of the pieces to put that motor together.
Oh,
but that one ran real good.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is a good old Johnny Cash song too, by the way. But in case you don't know it, it's a good one. You'll have to look it
I
up
know
some-
Johnny Cash, but
Okay.
I don't know if I know all the songs.
Oh.
There was a lot of motors I put together were kind of one piece at a time or steal a piece from my neighbor.
Yep. Do what you have to.
Different brand rods and different brand pistons, and just as long as everything made weight and balance, you could race like a son of a gun. So.
Yeah.
And didn't have $60,000 to $80,000 in it either.
Well, no, 6 or 8 maybe. But
Yeah. Yep. Drop a zero off the end. It was made it semi-affordable.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Well, and I think I'd have to ask somebody else, but like the 360 Nationals that Gary won in Jackson, should have won too. That was, we'll blame me on that one. But I think that was probably the last stock block, stock routed 360 that won the Jackson Nationals.
Oh, sure.
We bought that motor for $200. Gary went and picked it up at the junkyard in St. James. I sold the carburetor and the intake off it for $300.
Made money right away.
Right away, we were doing good. And then I sold the heads and some other stuff off it. And then I used those rods and that stock crank and that block. And then I bought a set of aftermarket pistons and bought a used set of heads, and we put that thing together, and it ran really good. I mean, I changed camshafts, I think, in it once, and then found the one I wanted, and then just to see how far it would go, that was foolishness. We didn't do anything with it. It went 64 nights, and it finally broke a rod.
Really?
64 nights.
Yeah.
Good Lord, there ain't nobody gets 64 nights out of anything anymore.
No. So, and then it wasn't treated kindly. Marv drove that motor, won the Black Hills Nationals with it. Sent the car and motor and everything out there, and it was right when cell phones were getting going. And I told him wrote down what he needed to do, and he could call me after the heat race. And he said he won the heat race. So I told him what he should do if the racetrack looked like this, and he did. And I guess he whipped their bottom side. So.
There, you're crew chief in long distance already back then.
Back then, yes, I was.
That's pretty cool. So, did you get all 64 of them races in that in 1 year, or is that over 2 years or something?
That was a 2-year span.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, really.
And just to be clear, you wouldn't mind having the picture of Travis Whitney at the finish line, kind of pulling that wheelie.
Oh, I'd really love that.
Okay. All right. You never know who
No,
listens.
you never know.
They might have that. So that's why I wanted to make sure it was clear. So.
And we should mention again that we got Doug DeWall on tonight, just in case somebody tuned in the middle of the show. My wife keeps reminding me of this, but our secretary that we have,
Yep.
she does stuff for us. She reminds me periodically that we don't say it enough. So.
Yep. Now, coming up at Jackson is the Merle Johnson Memorial Race. I assume you and Merle knew each other fairly well and maybe did some stuff together?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we might have had a beverage or two. and then we'd sometimes get together and play cards in the wintertime, and went to Texas usually in the spring. A bunch of us did. One time we rented a bus, all went on the bus, had a good time. So, Merle, we called him Skippy because when we played cards, he kept his coins in a Skippy jar, so we nicknamed him Skippy.
Hey, them peanut butter jars are handy to have around.
Yeah.
So when you went to Texas in the spring, was that for racing then that was down there, or just go on vacation each year?
Went to Houston and to the Devil's Bowl and stopped at Oklahoma City on the way home.
Well, nothing like good racing-cation, because I'm
Right.
starting to enjoy them more,
Right.
but I'm getting in on a few of them, thanks to my good buddy Steve.
Yeah. Now, I kind of get tidbits from Jason here, so you got to help us out on some. So, Scott Gherkin was part of the Kinzer crew, and did he help you kind of learn some stuff about the motors?
Oh, yeah, he helped if I'd get in a predicament or if I needed, I'd say, what's going on with this thing, Scott? He usually knew the answer 99% of the time. So, and when he was working for Steve, I would buy pistons that they would take out.
Okay.
And I'd buy used lifters and stuff. That's how I managed to stay going as long as I could, is I'd buy a lot of those used parts. And then I'd only run them anywhere from 8 to 12 nights, and I'd take them out and get some different ones.
Sure.
Because I found out I tried going 16 and it broke. I tried going 14 and it broke. So I thought we better stop at 12. And then I broke one at 12, so then I stopped at 10.
Trial and error.
Yeah, well, the one guy said you're putting out too much power for the stuff that's not designed for that much power. So and I said, okay, that sounds good to me.
Oh.
But when you do it, when the labor stuff is all your own, you can do that. You can take them apart every 10 nights.
Yep. Yeah, if you had to ship them off to get them freshened somewhere else, then the cost goes up considerably.
Yes, that's right. So, but yeah, that was very beneficial to me. Steve and Scott would sell me used pieces. Well, I bought several cars from him at the end of the year when they were done, you know, and they were getting ready for next year. I'd buy a used car from Scott and Steve, or Steve and Scott, however you want to
Yeah.
call it, you know. So, and then if there was something, we'll say a tire change or something that was going on the outlaw deal, Jimmy and him were really good friends, and we'd get the inside scoop right away, and that always helped.
Oh yeah, it never hurts to stay one step ahead if you can.
That's right. So, and I've lost that a little bit, but we'll figure it out some way.
Yeah.
So
I know that, you know, kind of this isn't motors, but we had heard that Kyle Larson,
Paul Silva,
kind of gets some of Donnie Schatz's old tires
Yep.
and just reuses those.
Yeah.
So, you've pretty much built your motors your whole career. If you weren't building, was there somebody you would have bought a motor from? Was there one that you liked more than others, you think, or didn't you ever pay close attention to any of that?
My checkbook said it didn't matter. I was either going to do it myself or I couldn't.
Yep.
We had a few motors that Marv and I bought when we first were going, and he had Lauren Wood keep motors in his car for a long time, and then I had Brian doing some of my machine work for a while, and Lauren's son, and he still does once in a while for me. But I had a friend of mine, Wally Heck, he's passed away now, but he told me, he says, I don't know why you don't build them yourself. He said, you know more about them than anybody you talk to.
Yeah.
So
I said, okay, well, I'm going to put one together, and we're going to do it down at Bobby at Johnson Automotive. So we did it, and Bobby got the hot to tank the block, and we had all the machine work done over at Lauren's, and we put it together, and we finished it up about 6 o'clock on Saturday and went to Jackson, and about half hour later and started racing.
gotta make sure all bolts are tight before you get there, hopefully. So
That's right. So, but yeah, unfortunately, I've done that more often than I should. Finish the motor up, stick it in the car, and hope it's going to work.
Yeah.
Gary and I, and one of our guys that helped us, called him Dennis Catarabit, called him Odie. We loaded up and went down to Texas and Oklahoma, and I finished the motor about 2:30 in the morning, put it in the car, and loaded it up that morning, and I slept all the way down, and I hadn't started it yet.
wake up, cross your fingers, hope this thing runs when we push it.
Yeah, and we got there, and I couldn't get it started. I couldn't figure out what the devil was going on. Well, here it had been windy and had this little light layer of sand, and I couldn't get the wheels to turn over because it was rolling, not sliding on that sand.
Oh.
We were on the concrete, and finally we found some dirt, and then away it went. And then I felt a lot better.
Yeah.
You're like, whoo, baby, that was close.
Yeah.
Drive all the way down here and the car won't run. That'd been bad.
Yeah.
If you had to take a guess, and it can just be a guess, how many motors have you made?
Oh, not that many. Let's see. I'd have to think. When the heck was that first one? Wally. Yeah, that's tough one.
That's why I said you could just guess.
Okay, I'm trying to think how long ago all this started. So about 82. So we'll just say if it was 84 to now, what's that? 4 years?
Yeah.
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 Okay, well, just rounded off to about 6 a year, so not that many.
Well,
Oh,
that's
that's
240. That's quite a few
Yeah.
for guys that barely know how to change their own oil. You know. Well, I can put spark plugs in and stuff like that.
One year when Jimmy, my friend Jimmy, he had to have one kidney removed because of cancer. We did 33 motors through my shop that winter.
Holy smokes.
30.
He was getting bored, and he said, "Well, I got another one for us to do. I'll take them apart, and you put them all back together."
He wanted the easy part.
Yeah. And then when time come, he said, "When are we going to start on ours?" I said, "Well, we got to get some of these guys to pay their bills so I can afford to buy my own part."
That's, I don't know if it's that way today or not, but I assume you probably went up to a year before you got paid for some of those things.
On some of them I did, yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of them I think I'm still short.
That's what I was going to say.
You were talking about that other guy would tear the motors apart. Back when I was still in high school and just out of high school, the local mechanic in town here, Doug Wenzel, he'd overhaul a motor. And if it was like a 350 or a Chevy product, so he was really good at Chevy. I'd go down there, we'd pull the motor out, and he'd hand me the tools and he'd just tell me, take every bolt loose you can find on this and take everything apart. And then he could, he didn't, if it was something he wasn't used to, he'd have to take it apart himself so he could remember. But something like that, he'd put, I don't know how many of them together. So so I'd just sit down there for an afternoon and take everything apart I could possibly take apart and start washing parts up, and then he'd overhaul it and put her back together. So kind of the same process you guys had going, only yours.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't allowed to lift much, so he could between impact wrenches and electric tools, he could take things apart.
Yep. Put it on the engine stand. You can flip it over, take different parts off, and
Now, I assume that you have had a couple favorite motors over the years. The 361 that you ran, however, what was
64 shows or whatever.
But have you had a couple others that you just absolutely loved?
Yeah. Did Jason tell you about that?
No.
This one Bud pulled right out of his
I
backside.
pulled this one out of my ass. So.
Well, it was the one we won that All-Star race with at Jackson. Okay, so that was kind of turned, every time I try something new that didn't work, and then we'd go, well, let's go back to Old Reliable. We call that Old Reliable. So Old Reliable, every time I'd come up with a new brilliant idea that was a dud, we'd get Old Reliable out, and we'd go real fast again. So we're racing at Houston's, and Brooks leading the feature. Jason walks over to me and he goes, "Dad, I hope that thing don't break or spit or sputter." Well, why is that? "I just sold it." I said, "Who told you to sell it?" "I did." He said, that was, he sold Old Reliable right before we even finished the feature.
What the
What
heck?
was he thinking?
I don't know.
Damn kids.
No wonder why he caught a few elbows back in the day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that one. I mean, even back to like when Marv was driving, when I was a kid, and they were driving from Watertown to Jackson to race. He raced at Houston and Sioux Speedway both then, but he had one motor that he called Old Tuffy, and that's, well, I'd have to see if I got it wrote down, but I think that one ran 3 full seasons and part of the 4th season, and sold it to the neighbor kid who put it in his street rod, and they moved to Arizona.
No kidding. Jesus. That's all. I would call that Old Tuffy. That's a good name for that one.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
you meant
we got that year. I don't think I'd ever see that again. There was a man by the name of Chet Davidson worked at the Chevy garage, put that together for Marv. Because the year before, Marv was running a Ford, a 312 Ford, and I think he led like 19 features at Watertown and broke 19 crankshafts.
Oh, damn.
So I don't know how Marv and Chet got together. I'm not sure, but he said, if you don't mind, I'd like to put you together a motor that can stay together. He goes. And that was, so I'm just a little tyke, and I hear this, and I look, and down the alley, and here comes this old wrecker. It would have been about a 57 Chevy wrecker, I think. And on the back there was something swinging, and he brought that motor all the way across Watertown up to Dad's shop, swinging on the back of that wrecker.
Oh, hanging on the record.
Yeah, just hanging on the back of the wrecker.
Oh my God. Oh.
Oh,
I don't think you'd ever see that today, but
no, there's a lot of things we did back in the day you won't see no more today.
That's right.
Oh man.
You mentioned Brooke earlier, Tatnall.
Yes.
You guys had a real good run with him, and the other day Wade Unger did an interview with Wade and his whole family, or with Brooke and his whole family. I don't know if you caught that or not, if you're on Facebook or not, but that was a really.
I didn't catch it all. Got busy, but I'm going to watch it all.
Yeah, that was a really good interview. But I mean,
Yeah.
well, how many years did Brooke drive for you guys? I can't keep track of none of that stuff.
Well, I can't either. That's Jason's job, but I think it was 4.
Okay, well, we can't trust Jason because he'll just sell shit from out underneath you, so you don't know if he's going to do anything.
Oh. You had a good run with Brooke up at Houston's though too. 2 championships up there, and you know that was a lot of fun.
Well, and I guess the best way of putting it is we needed each other about the time we got together. He was relieved of his driving duties from a different car, and I wasn't sure I wanted to race. I was just going to run a few local races. Travis had told me he was going to buy his dad's business out, and eventually his kids would probably get into go-karts, and so he was going to step away, and Brooke and I run the Jackson Nationals that year, and things went well. And we just, and for Brooke and I don't know if it's because of our age proximity or what it is, but he sees things the way I see things, you know. If I want to turn left, I use my left hand for left-hand signal. I don't do some funky thing that somebody else wants to do, but so, but like if I think how I would do a car and how he wants to do a car, very similar. So he would just say, well, this is what I think, and I said, well, I think that's only partially right. Do whatever you want, I'll drive her. And so then away we would go. So,
Yeah.
so we got along real well that way.
You bet.
He'd give us all he ever had, you know, he never let us down, I can tell you that.
Yeah, super nice guy.
Yeah. You know, we don't want to keep you all night, and we have another podcast, so we're going to hit you up with these awesome rapid fire questions to find out a little bit more about you. So
Okay.
So Doug, what's your favorite kind of ice cream?
I don't.
You don't have ice. Okay.
Wow, that could
I
be the.
did chocolate, everything would be in chocolate world, but the stomach issues say, yeah, I can't do that
Oh.
anymore.
Okay, yep. You a cat or a dog person?
Well, I better say cats. I think there's 5 of them running around there.
Well, I don't mean they're just strays that showed up.
Do you have any hobbies outside of working on race cars?
I like to hunt.
Well, there you go.
Oh, what do you hunt? What's your favorite thing to go hunting?
Oh, I don't. Deer and ducks, and I go deer hunting when I get a chance.
Okay. What's the biggest buck you've gotten? I gotta ask.
Oh, I should tell you that story, but I'm ashamed. Yeah, I got a nice 10-point hanging on the wall here.
Okay.
That's good.
But anyway, pheasant hunting. I really enjoy pheasant hunting too.
Yep. That's
Yep.
about all. We used to waterfowl or duck hunt, but then now all I do is pheasant anymore. So.
Yeah. Well, when we do waterfowl anymore, we switch to land hunting. makes it a lot easier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Call them in or decoy them in or whatever and have them come in that way.
Yeah. Do like the guy in the street corner, sit on your duff and wait till they show up.
Yeah.
There you go.
How about a favorite movie, Doug? You got one of them?
Field of Dreams.
Yep.
That's
there
a
you
good
go.
one.
Build
Classic.
it. Build it and they'll come.
Yep.
Do you prefer snow or rain?
Oh boy,
Or
I
neither.
might even go with snow today. How's that?
Okay.
It was
There you
hot
go.
today. It got a little bit sticky this afternoon.
Yes, it did.
If you were going to be stranded on an island, what type of music would you want along to listen to?
Well, oldies, 98.7.
There you go. There you go.
Do you have a favorite place to go out to eat?
Lately we've been doing the Bergen Bar and Grill.
Is that
That
right
Bergen-
in Jackson?
Oh, north.
Nope, it's in Bergen. All 12 people live there or whatever.
We got that one written down. Somebody
Do
else
we?
told us
It's
the
north,
bird.
north of Jackson, about 10 miles.
Yep.
Okay.
Somebody else told us about the bird.
We'll have to go early to Jackson and go eat there.
We could do that.
So,
Yes, you should do that.
all
All
right.
right, mark that down, bud. You want me to write it down so we don't forget we
No,
made plans?
we'll
Okay.
remember. I'm sure we will.
It's food. How about a favorite holiday?
Well, I'll go with Jason's Thanksgiving.
Okay, that's good. Like food, family. How many speeding tickets do you have?
Oh, not that many.
Okay,
But, well, and I'm going to say 4.
Oh
That-
shit,
that's-
that's a good number.
and
That's
you
not
said
even-
you're 70.
And the last one, I was very upset that I got. The
wasn't.
last 2 that I got, I was enjoying life. Just riding along, looking at the crops, and just enjoying a great, lovely day. Got going down the hill and got a ticket for 63 and a 55 in Minnesota.
Oh, little bit.
I was just doing that the other day, and I was going 65, and
Yep.
cop went right by me, and thank goodness he didn't turn around. And I had no reason to be going 65. I was just putzing around, and like you said, down the hill, and there she blew. So,
The last one I got, I was watching the swans that used to nest over here by Lake Park or whatever. They were flying in, and I'd come over the hill on 9, and I was pointing them out to the wife and daughter who were coming home from a softball tournament. Next thing I know, I'm 69 mile an hour going down the hill, meet the state trooper.
Well,
There again, no reason to be speeding. We were on our way home, tournament was over, but lollygagging, watching Mother Nature.
this one might be good. We'll see.
Yeah,
here.
we'll see what you come up with this. So, being we're talking speeding tickets, what's the
Yeah.
fastest you've ever driven down the highway or say ridden with somebody else in a car down the highway?
well, we just talked about that today. I had a 57 Chevy that we rebuilt the motor in, and I don't know if anybody realizes the speedometer went to 120 and it would keep going.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
It'd go all the way back around to 0, and that was as fast as I could hang on to it without crashing.
I was gonna say, because a 57 ain't real stable at that speed, probably.
Well, no, you need the road and all the road.
Yep. All the road. I like that way.
What's your favorite drink or go-to beverage?
Oh, I'm trying to say water, but it's Gatorade most of the time.
Okay.
Because I sweat like a
Yep.
So you
So,
go to Houston and it's hot.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Damn High Bank Nationals. They were about miserable.
Yeah.
So, last question here for you before we let you go. If you just won the lottery and had all the money in the world, is there a car, a pickup, a boat, or anything? It's something you've always wanted but just can't have the money to buy for it?
Well, to start with, I'd probably reconstruct my 57 Chevy as long as I had a place to park it.
Well, you got all the money in the world, you build a big shed, nice heated garage, air conditioned shed to keep it in.
Then I'd have her made, wouldn't I?
Yep. I'd be right there with you because I'd love to spend about
Oh,
50,
yeah.
60 grand on my old pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't take much because I can't do the work myself.
Yeah, I had a Plymouth Valiant back in the day, and 72, and
Yeah.
it's Plymouth Valiant, Dodge Scamp, they're the same thing, and 318 in it. That thing went like no other. But I don't have no idea where it went, and I would like
Well,
to
I
have
know
one
where
back.
My 57 went. It went to recycle about a week after I sold it because the guy turned it into a little ball of iron.
Oh,
man.
really?
I told him it'd go faster than he could drive it, and he didn't believe me, apparently.
And he found that out right away, huh?
Oh,
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Then I had a 66 Chevy Super Sport after that. That was nice, too.
yeah.
My grandpa had one of them.
Yeah.
His had a big block in it, had the 427 in it.
Mine had a 327.
Yep.
Yeah.
Automatic on the floor, black, red interior. First car I
Was it
spun
a
the tires on.
Was it a 3-speed or 2-speed? Automatic.
You stumped him.
Yeah, I wanna say a 2-speed, but I'd have to ask my brother.
Yeah, I'm sure it probably was.
Because my favorite story with that car, so I would have been, say, 11. Because if I remember the story correctly, we were washing it up for a parade, and my brother didn't want to drive it because he was just a few months away from turning 16, so we didn't want to get busted at that point in time. So we backed it off of Dad's driveway and onto the street, pulled it in the drive, and you know, the old cars, carburetor, they flutter and they're going to die, and he tells me to pump it. So I pumped the foot feed a couple of times and she lit. And with that 427, you know, we're on just an asphalt road out here, P-rock and whatnot, and she was spinning the tires and making all kinds of noise. I about had a heart attack as best I can remember, and Brad's laughing. But that's how I remember the story anyhow.
Yeah.
But
As long as you remember it the way you want it.
yeah,
That's
it
right.
sounds good. It makes for a good story, I figure, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, we're super
Wow.
happy that you made it into the Houston Hall of Fame. I think it's been long overdue, so I'm super proud of you for getting in there. And you know, we're just huge race fans, and for everything you've done for
whole
racing
family.
in our area with your whole family, we can't thank you enough for everything you guys have done.
Well, thank you. And I know I appreciate your guys' podcasts, even though I don't catch them usually that night. I can do them later. But there's a lot of people that enjoy listening to you guys.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for that. We just have fun.
Yep.
That's what I mean.
We would have never thought this when we started, and
No,
it's been insane. So, thanks for your time, Doug, and again, congrats. And I'm sure we'll talk to you at Houston's.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep,
bet.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Don't run too fast, bud. You'll pull a hammy trying to get there.